My priority is trying to draw every day while learning anatomy on the side. Okay, so if you are learning anatomy, or if your focus is more on the actual drawing than, let's say, for example, painting, if you're focused more on the drawing fundamentals themselves, then you have more of a well-established path here, and like it's easier to figure out what you want to do. The drawing steps fundamentals are very straightforward, so it should be very easy to you once you figure out the steps. It's just as simple as that. It's like, imagine, oh man, I've used this analogy 100 times today. Imagine you're playing Call of Duty and you want to level up the camouflages. Leveling up the camouflages in Call of Duty is not hard. It's super straightforward. Like, the game tells you what you need to do in order to unlock the camouflage. But if you don't know that the camouflages exist in the first place, then it's going to be really hard. So what you gotta do is understand that you're playing the game in the first place so you can level it up. Learning anatomy and learning perspective are not like underground, super hidden, low-key techniques or anything. These are like the obvious things that you need to learn in order to improve. But for some reason, most people, like 99% of people, do it wrong. They never learn it correctly because I don't fucking know. I don't fucking know. I guess it's more of a mindset issue. That's mostly why I talk a lot about mindset and about my own personal mistakes, because I also used to fuck this up. I also started drawing. When I started drawing using lines and stuff, I was drawing a lot of manga. Well, not manga, but I was copying manga artists. I was copying like crappy like anime, but it was mostly copying, right? I was copying other artists, which, if you're a beginner, chances are this is what you're currently doing. You're copying from other artists and doing studies, which is fair enough. You know, we all got our limitations, and obviously, if you don't know what else, like how else to progress, then that's what you're gonna end up doing. The purpose of the advice that I give is to get you out of that rut of not knowing how to break from those from references and copying from references, and just directly memorizing them, and so you can draw them from imagination. I think that's the main issue for most people. Yeah, I was also going on Pinterest and I would copy the drawings there. And you know what? It was actually very embarrassing. I always say this because not even when I was a beginner, I was already a well established artist. I was already drawing for years. And I was really good at painting at the time. I was really, really good at painting. And I started to get a little bit more, people started to recognize me a little more. And I was still copying other artists because I didn't know how to draw from imagination. And it's very easy to cope because it's a hard thing to do, to be honest. It's a hard skill to learn. The problem, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to look at other people's work, but to copy directly, and I'm not saying, again, that this isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a waste of time when you know the alternative, when you know the right way of doing it. And this is what I've been focusing on doing. Look, the thing is that I was talking like yesterday, a few days ago, I was talking with one of my Patreons, and he asked me, there are people who say that tracing is a good thing, like tracing for tracing on images, not tracing other people's art, but tracing images and maybe tracing the structure and stuff. And I told him tracing is not bad, but 99% of people who trace do it wrong. And the 1% of people who don't do it wrong, they don't need to trace. The people who know what they're doing and are tracing mindfully and consciously, they don't need to trace. They don't need to copy. If you know what you're doing, you don't need to do these things. So they are automatically trivial. Because if you truly know what you're doing, this is not about talent, by the way. It's just about knowing what the fuck you're doing. You can just look at a reference. You can look at even other people's work. But I recommend doing this with actual references. You look at a reference, you look at the human body, for example, and you can absorb those references. You can absorb that information that you're actually seeing. And this is tricky, right? Because this is not automatic. You need to follow a certain sequence of steps in order to get to this point. It's not that you need to be talented and you need to have photographic memory for you to do this. It is also not that you need to fuck, I forget what I was gonna say. Like, you just need to know, right? It's not impossible. This is what I've been doing, and this is why I'm able to draw like this complex anatomy from imagination. And it doesn't even take a lot of time to get to a good point like this. It just takes observing the right way, which is pretty straightforward, but it's complicated to explain. This is why I'm making so many videos on this, because it takes time, but it is possible, and it's basically the only way to break from this mindless copying. But yeah, in short, in a nutshell, you don't need to copy other artists. You don't need to copy their drawings or copy directly from pictures if you've unlocked this knowledge, which is not something like when I say unlock this knowledge, it's like a certain mindset, right? The point of the one-on-one mentorships is for me to personally brainwash you so you have the mindset that I do. Because even for like, if you're watching this video, like, it takes a long time for these things to kind of absorb in your brain. The mindset is not something, I call it mindset because it's not just something that I can tell you, hey, you do this like this, not like this, and it's like, oh, okay, now I know how to do it. No, you gotta follow like a sequence of steps, and then your brain is going to understand. It's going to click. That is the word. It's going to click, and it's going to, you're going to be having these eureka moments throughout your practicing, and it's going to be really good. And then you're going to realize, okay, copying stuff is actually pointless. And it's not very sexy either. It's like, imagine you're outside and you got a friend, and, you know, a friend tells you, hey, can you draw this? It's like, oh, yeah, let me just look at a photo. You know, it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? If you're an artist and you only learn to copy. Yeah, I used to feel kind of insecure about this, but it feels really nice to break through that barrier. And I'm not talented. I just have a lot of passion for this. And you don't need to have like a certain talent or be, I don't know, have like a certain brain development to do this. Yes, I'm talking about drawing from imagination. I went from someone who was only able to draw by looking at something and copying it, and poorly, by the way, like I wasn't even very good at that. And now I draw everything basically from imagination because I don't need to I don't need to copy stuff because it's just not even the most effective way of learning. Even if your goal is memorizing things, copying is not going to solve it. Copying directly is not even going to make you remember things. Like looking at something or observing, like truly observing something, is going to make you remember that better than copying it. It sounds ironic, but it is the truth. You also got to learn how to observe. Let's say I have an object in front of me. Let's say I'm talking to this microphone. Let's say I have this microphone in front of me and I want to memorize this microphone. If I only look at the microphone, I'm not going to suddenly memorize it. I'm not going to understand what it looks like and how it works. It's not going to happen. But if I observe it with the intention of memorizing it and I follow the sequence of steps like taking mental observations. What I do is I take mental observations on what the microphone looks like, how it works. I make a conscious effort to memorize the 3D shape and visualize it in perspective. You know, all of these little random things. And then my brain is going to remember it, especially after I draw it, like afterwards. It just sticks for some reason. When I started with the streams, I remember I was drawing, which I improved so fucking much, by the way, in such little amount of time. When I started with the streams, I started drawing car engines. I don't know, it's just very random, but I like drawing car engines. It's like, it was like a very random thing that I was kind of interested, just for the sake of challenging me a little bit because they were really complex. From that point, I never drew a car engine again. It was like, okay, I drew the car engine, and then it's like, okay, I don't draw it anymore because I'm more focused on human anatomy. And then a few days ago, I was like, okay, I'm gonna try drawing the car engine again without looking at a reference, just by pure memory, trying to remember what it looks like in my observations from a few months ago. And I was able to pull it off. At first I was like, no, there's no way this is gonna turn out okay. But then I was like, oh, actually it's really good. I could remember what it looked like, at least 80% of it, which is insane if I haven't looked at it in a few months. How do I get better at it? Like, okay, imagine I haven't looked at it for a few months. If I look at a reference of that same engine again, it's going to like my memory is going to refresh. My muscle memory is going to function again, so to speak. It's going to remember what it looked like in more detail just by looking at it again. Like it's already in my database. And I think most people make the mistake of thinking, oh yeah, you already have an like about visual library, right? I'm talking about visual library. People think, yeah, you've already looked at this object, so you already have it in your visual library, so you can draw it from imagination. No, it doesn't really work like that. Just because you looked at something before, just because you looked at a crane, for example, doesn't mean that you're gonna memorize and remember what it looks like when you draw it from imagination. So your visual library begins. You start to actually collect the books or put in books in your visual library, so to speak, the moment that you begin to consciously observe. You haven't consciously observed yet. And until you do it, your visual library, let's just for the sake of the argument, say that it's empty. Because again, if I tell you, hey, can you draw a cat? Bro, I have 3 fucking cats. There was a point in my life where I had 10 cats. I've had cats consistently in my life for the past 12 years. And even then, I know I haven't practiced drawing cats enough. I haven't looked at them in a conscious way enough for me to draw them from imagination as well as I can draw people, for example. Because I haven't practiced it as much as I have with people. When I do it, like when I get bored of drawing people and I start drawing animals, I'm gonna be good at it. And because, I started to observe consciously, because the images of these animals that I've seen in the past are not doing anything in my mind when I'm trying to recall them, because they're not gonna be accurate. It's just how it works. If you want, like, again, going back to the analogy of Call of Duty, learning anatomy is like leveling up camouflages in Call of Duty. So you got this camouflage. Okay, you level it up. You get the camouflage. That is like learning human anatomy. That is learning how to draw a person. Okay, you get one camouflage. Then how to draw a cat. You learn how to draw a cat. So then you got another camouflage. But in order for you to get the camouflage, you first got to follow a series of steps. That is killing people, right? In this case, it's observing. Car engines. And that's another camouflage. Personally, the human anatomy camouflage is the most difficult one to learn. If you ask me, what is harder to learn, the human body or a car engine or like a mechanical complex stuff? The human body is super more difficult to learn how to draw from imagination. This is why I have been hyper focusing on the human body specifically, and I haven't been doing much else. I haven't been drawing a lot of animals. I haven't been drawing a lot of car engines again, because this is the hardest. This is as hard as it gets in terms of difficulty. And once you're done with human anatomy, the rest is just easy, and you can draw like fucking Kim Jong-il if you want. Okay, that was some loaded information. I'm gonna be probably turning this into a video or something, because I'm too lazy to record a separate video aside from this. I want to work as little as possible because I'm a lazy. I actually want to just optimize my time so I can draw for as long as possible and having to record videos for as least as humanly possible. So this is also the purpose of these streams. My friends from art school, and they themselves told me that it's best to draw from life rather than from a photo and analyze the object you're drawing, forms, values, blah, 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 blah. Bro, it's the same thing. I mean, you're not talking about drawing from imagination. You're talking about copying from life and from a photo. But if we talk about absorbing this information and references from to draw from imagination, everything counts. Anything goes. Literally. The internet and photos are the most valuable asset that you have in these terms. Even more than real life, because in real life, you're not going to be able to see and rotate a fucking car engine. But if you go to Sketchfab, you will, and you will be able to memorize it more effectively. And then people are going to be like, how the fuck did you memorize what this looks like? What a robotic mech looks like? How do you know what it looks like? Have you seen one in real life? Of course not. But you have the internet. This is the beauty of it. And ideally, you're not copying neither from life or from a photo. I mean, that's equally as pointless in my opinion in terms of this that we're talking. So you think observing consciously is more important than even making a mark in the paper? Yes. Yes, exactly. Let me just look. Drawing is, or drawing from imagination is basically compounded by two principles. Principle number one is learning perspective. After you learn perspective, and this is gonna sound fucking crazy, but after you learn perspective, you don't even need to put another mark on the paper. You don't even need to draw anymore in order to improve. You can just observe. You can understand the world, and that's gonna improve you even more than drawing. It is insane. It is weird. It is so counterintuitive how observing is going to give you is going to get you further than drawing. Observing consciously is literally what Kim Jong-il did. Yeah, I saw in an interview that he went to the military in Korea and he couldn't draw, obviously. So he was just observing stuff. He was like drawing in his mind. And when you understand how to do this, you don't even need to draw anymore. It sounds weird, but drawing is just a display of your knowledge. Drawing is not about who can copy the best a photo. Drawing is about a display of the visual knowledge that you have acquired. If you don't know how a car engine works and what it looks like, you're not gonna be able to draw it. If you know what a car engine looks like, you're gonna be able to draw it. That it's common sense when I put it like this, isn't it? I guess the best way to describe it is that it takes like an extra muscle. You have to work out this muscle in your brain. Look, I don't like too much of the term drawing from imagination. I prefer the term drawing from knowledge. Because, look, let me tell you this. Drawing from imagination is kind of a shitty term. Because if I tell you, hey, imagine a plane engine or some random shit, like you probably haven't seen a plane engine or like a complex item that you don't usually see in real life. So if I tell you, hey, imagine, visualize a car engine and you don't know what it looks like, then you can say that drawing from imagination is pointless. Because if your imagination is shit, then you won't be able to do it. But your imagination has very little to do with the drawing itself. It's the knowledge that you have on that thing. So if you don't know how to draw a car engine, observe it and absorb, like, again, here's where you use that sequence of steps. Then you absorb the knowledge, so then you know what it looks like, and then you can draw it without having to look at the reference in the first place. But again, it's just about understanding what you're drawing. The more you understand what you're drawing, the better it's going to be. Otherwise, it's just going to be gibberish. Let me give you another example. Like, when you're drawing something, anything, there should not be gibberish. There should not be guessing. What people do is, oh, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna try to guess what this looks like. I'm gonna try to wing it. I'm going to, maybe there's some gibberish, and I ask you, hey, what is this? I don't know. It's just some gibberish, some randomness in the line work or something. This shouldn't happen if you know what you're doing. And if you know what you're doing, your drawings are going to be crystal clear. So, for example, if I go to this drawing here, that I was drawing the back muscles, I can name you the muscles here. This muscle here is the lower trapezius. And when you raise your arm, it takes this shape that is a little bit different from when your arms are lowered. And this next to it is the infraspinatus muscle that is connected to the it's kind of cage in between the upper traps, the lower traps, and the lats. These are the lats, by the way. So I know what I'm doing. I'm not trying to guess. I'm not drawing this by trying to, I don't know, force like a mystical 4D plane fuck, I can't talk. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like a mystical, wishy-washy thing to do. It's like, just draw what you know. Draw what you know and how it works. From when you're raising your arm from this view, you will be able to see the lats coming from the humerus like this. And the shoulder here is going to be above, and it's going to kind of connect in this way with the trapezius, and you're going to be able to see like a crease here and the heads of the shoulder from this angle. You got to know what you're doing, man. If you don't know this information that I just talked about, if this doesn't make any sense, you're not going to be able to draw anatomy unless you copy from a photo. That makes sense. If anyone else has any other random questions, feel free to ask it before I wrap this up, because it's already kind of late. How do I learn perspective? Sorry, I saw your vid about not caring about line quality, but I don't know how to specifically learn it. Man, just drop boxes. Honestly, just draw boxes. Don't think that I'm giving you half-ass advice here. Just draw boxes. That's literally it. Like do something similar to this. Just draw a bunch of boxes in perspective. Make them connect. Use vanishing points, whatever. After you do this consistently for a year, you will be already a master at perspective. And when you are a master at perspective, everything else unlocks for you. This is the equivalent of finishing the tutorial, right? This is so important. Learning perspective or mastering perspective is the equivalent of finishing the tutorial if this was like a video game. The thing is that most people don't actually know how to play the game beyond the tutorial. This is when anatomy comes into place. This is what I teach you. So yeah, just draw boxes, man. Draw boxes with as much variety, thickness, eye level, everything. Just vary them a lot. You will eventually, it will eventually click, right? You will have a bit of an eureka moment, urethra moment. You're gonna have this like it's gonna click. It's gonna click, and you're gonna think, oh, hell yeah, it makes sense now. Thank you. Should I also draw cylinders? I mean, if you want. It's not the end of the world if you don't draw cylinders. You can do it. I mean, it's just so similar to drawing boxes that it's kind of irrelevant sometimes. I draw, like, for example, if you're gonna draw, after you're kind of good at drawing the boxes, like I told you, then you can level up to the mannequins. You start drawing mannequins like this, and then you're naturally going to be implementing cylinders, and you're gonna be twisting them in perspective in 3D space like this. Yeah, I mean it's fairly easy. I don't think you need to practice it, like be autistic about it. I need to do these streams more often. I actually like talking about this stuff, and also it keeps me accountable because I have a lot of ADHD and I end up getting distracted by some random shit. I'll be wrapping this up already. I want to go do other stuff, I guess. I promise I'll try to keep it up with the streams. All right. Goodbye, everyone.